My children suddenly started hating me, and I couldn't figure out why. Then I found my wife's secret recordings in the garage. I, 42M, never thought I'd be posting here, but I'm at my wit's end and need perspective from strangers who aren't involved in this mess. For the past 3 years, I've watched my relationship with my children deteriorate, and I couldn't figure out why. My son and daughter used to be close to me. We'd go fishing on weekends, have movie nights, and they'd tell me about their day at school. Then, gradually, everything changed. It started small. They stopped wanting to spend time with me. When I'd suggest our usual activities, they'd make excuses or just say no outright. I figured it was normal teenage stuff. They were growing up and wanting independence. But then it got worse. Eye rolls when I walked into a room, leaving whenever I sat down near them. Short, clipped responses when I asked about their day. It was like I had become an unwelcome stranger in my own home. My wife suggested they were just going through a phase, but something felt off. The change was too dramatic, too targeted specifically at me. Last week, I was cleaning out the garage, looking for some old camping gear, when I found a box tucked behind the winter tires. It was unmarked, and I didn't recognize it. Inside were several thumb drives labeled by dates going back 3 years. Curious, I plugged one into my laptop. What I heard chilled me to the bone. It was a recording of my wife talking to our children. Her voice was soft, caring, the same tone she always used with them. But her words, God, her words. I know it's hard to understand, she was saying, but your father doesn't really care about either of you. He's only pretending because that's what society expects. My son asked something I couldn't quite make out. I know he seemed excited about your game, she responded, but he was just putting on a show. He told me later he was bored the whole time and only went because he had to. He thinks your interests are stupid. My daughter's voice, smaller than I'd ever heard it. But he helped me with my science project. Because I made him, my wife said firmly. He complained about it for days. Said it was a waste of his time. I felt physically ill. I had never said those things. That science project had been one of my proudest moments as a father. My daughter had won second place, and I'd been thrilled to help her. I checked another drive, then another, and another. Hours of recordings. Years of them. My wife systematically poisoning my children against me, twisting my words, fabricating complaints I'd never made, telling them I found them annoying, that I wished I didn't have to deal with them, that I stayed late at work to avoid them. All lies. Absolute lies. In some recordings, she'd coach them on how to act around me. Just keep your answers short, she'd say. Don't give him details about your day. He doesn't really care anyway. I couldn't sleep that night. My mind raced with questions. Why would she do this? What was her endgame? We'd been married for 18 years. Things weren't perfect, but I never suspected anything like this. The next day, I waited until the kids left for school and confronted her. I played a few snippets of the recordings. Her face went through a series of emotions, shock, anger, then something close to relief. You weren't supposed to find those, she said finally. That's your response. Not denying it. Not explaining why you've spent years turning our children against me. She sat down at the kitchen table, oddly calm. You wouldn't understand. You've always been their favorite. From the day they were born, they adored you. I was just secondary. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So this was jealousy? You destroyed my relationship with our children because you were jealous? I didn't destroy anything, she snapped. I just leveled the playing field. Now they don't worship you anymore. I've never felt so cold inside. This woman, who I'd shared my life with, had systematically estranged me from my own children because she couldn't stand that they loved me. I moved into the guest room that night. I consulted a lawyer the next day, who advised me to keep the recordings safe and to make copies. But there was a bigger problem. How do I tell my children? They already think I'm the villain in this story. 3 years of manipulation has convinced them I don't care about them. If I just play them the recordings and say, your mother has been lying to you, will they even believe me? Or will they see it as another reason to pull away? For now, I'm trying a different approach. I've started spending more time at home, despite the uncomfortable atmosphere. I make sure to show genuine interest in their activities. I don't push, but I'm present. I've asked them both to help me with projects I know they'd enjoy, with mixed success. My son agreed to help me build a new desk for his room last weekend. It wasn't much, but it was the first time in over a year that we'd spent more than 10 minutes alone together. My daughter is still distant, but I noticed she watched us from the doorway a few times. Update 1. It's been 2 weeks since I found the recordings. Things at home remain incredibly tense. My wife acts like nothing has happened when the kids are around, but when we're alone, she alternates between defending her actions and threatening me not to tell them. Yesterday, I had a breakthrough with my son. We were working on his car together. He just got his license, and he seemed confused by my enthusiasm. Finally, he asked, "Why are you suddenly interested in hanging out with me?" The question broke my heart, but I saw it as an opening. I told him I've always been interested in spending time with him, and that I've missed our relationship. He looked skeptical, but didn't shut me down. Mom says you think my car obsession is a waste of money, he said, testing me. I took a deep breath. That's not true. I've always supported your interests. I'm proud of how much you've learned about engines. He studied my face for a long time, then turned back to the carburetor we were cleaning. That's not what she says. It took everything I had not to play him the recordings right then. But my lawyer advised me to be careful about how I introduce this information. The last thing I want is for them to feel manipulated by both parents. Update 2. 3 days ago, things came to a head. My wife and I got into an argument after the kids went to bed. We were in the kitchen, and voices were raised. I didn't realize my daughter had come downstairs for water. You're trying to turn them against me now? My wife accused. I'm trying to rebuild what you deliberately destroyed, I responded. 3 years of lying to them, making them think I don't care. Dad, we both turned to see my daughter standing in the doorway, confusion on her face. What lies? She asked, looking between us. My wife immediately switched demeanor, going to her and putting an arm around her shoulders. Nothing, sweetie. Just a disagreement. But my daughter pulled away. No, I heard you. What lies? What's been destroyed? I looked at my wife, giving her a chance to come clean. She said nothing. I found recordings, I said finally. Mom has been telling you and your brother things about me that aren't true. For years. He's making that up, my wife said quickly. There are no recordings. My daughter looked at me, uncertainty in her eyes. I made a decision. Come to the garage with me, I said. My wife tried to stop us, but my daughter pushed past her. In the garage, I showed her the box and played one of the recordings. One where my wife told her that I'd called her latest art project amateur and embarrassing, when in reality, I had it framed and displayed proudly in my office. My daughter's face crumpled. She listened to 3 more recordings before she couldn't take it anymore. She ran upstairs and locked herself in her room. She wouldn't open the door for either of us. Update 3. The past week has been the hardest of my life. After my daughter heard the recordings, she told my son. He didn't believe her at first, so she played some for him. He confronted my wife, who tried to explain it away as protecting them from disappointment, because apparently, I may have seemed supportive but wasn't reliable. The kids aren't speaking to her now. They're barely speaking to me either, but it's different. With her, it's cold anger. With me, it seems more like they don't know what to believe anymore. I've moved out temporarily at my lawyer's suggestion. We're discussing divorce proceedings, and he advised that some physical separation might help clarify custody discussions later. I'm staying with my brother, who lives close enough that I can still see the kids regularly. Yesterday, my son asked to come over. We sat in awkward silence for a while before he finally asked, "Was it all lies? Everything she said about you?" "I can't say everything," I answered honestly. "I'm not perfect. I've been frustrated as a parent sometimes. But I have never, ever not wanted to be with you both. I've never found your interests boring or stupid. I've always been proud of you." He nodded slowly. "I remember when we used to do stuff together. Before. It was good. It was the best," I agreed. When he left, he hugged me. First time in 3 years. My daughter is still struggling more. She texted me asking for copies of some of the recordings. I'm not sure what she's doing with them, but I sent them to her. I've arranged for both kids to speak with a therapist. They need someone neutral to help them process this betrayal. As for my wife, I still don't fully understand why she did this. Jealousy seems too simple an explanation for such calculated cruelty. In our last conversation, she said something that haunts me. You never understood what it felt like to be second choice in your own family. Maybe there's truth there I'm not seeing. But nothing justifies what she did to our children, making them doubt their relationships, their memories, their sense of being loved. For now, I'm focusing on rebuilding. It's slow and painful, but last night my daughter called just to ask about my day. A small thing that felt enormous. I don't know what our family will look like moving forward. But at least now we're dealing with truth, not carefully constructed lies. And for the first time in 3 years, I have hope that my children might not hate me after all.